Mark Rogers TV putting a bow on day one of SEC Media Days with Vanderbilt, Florida at the podium, as well as the Auburn Tigers, the defending conference champions. And Gus Malzahn should have enjoyed the day, celebrating the accomplishments of 2013 and looking forward with high hopes to this fall. But instead, the head coach was forced to answer questions about his quarterback. On July 11th, which was last Friday, Nick Marshall was pulled over for having tinted windows. He was also found to have marijuana in his vehicle. Reportedly less than an ounce. He was not arrested. He was given a citation. And Gus Malzahn addressed the situation at SEC Media Days, basically owned up to it to say this is a very serious situation. We hold our players responsible, especially our starting quarterback, who's the face of the program. Nick Marshall was scheduled to attend SEC Media Days. He had that privilege taken away from him. Also could have been convenient that Malzahn did not want Nick Marshall to be facing the media scrutiny and all the questions he would have had to answer on this Monday. So Nick Marshall's situation with the team is somewhat in question. It seems to be a very serious situation, but not to the extent that it would get him dismissed from the football program. Gus Malzahn would not give any clues or hints as to what the discipline would be, but he said it would be appropriate for the punishment and for the crime committed. I would expect that Nick Marshall is going to miss 3 football games for the Auburn Tigers, including the opener against Arkansas on the Plains. That's just a gut feeling. If you look at some of the incidents, specifically last off-season involving star football players across the country, this would be in line with a 3-game suspension. He's the face of your franchise. He's the guy that is supposed to be a leader, supposed to be a model and an example for the rest of the football team. We know that Nick Marshall has had issues, and that's one of the reasons he's at Auburn. He enrolled at Georgia. He was a defensive back with the Georgia Bulldogs, and he was kicked off the football team by Mark Richt for theft, for stealing money. And now he comes to Auburn. He rights the ship. And based on everything Gus Malzahn has said today in Hoover, Alabama, Nick Marshall's done all the right things up until this situation. Excuse me. There was also a police report out and an interview actually done with a policeman who pulled over Marshall. And he said some very nice things about Nick Marshall's response to the situation, that he seemed very regretful, very understanding of the weight of the situation, of the severity of what he had done, that he was a bit teary-eyed, a bit shaken up. And again, he was very respectful and very much listened to what the officer had to say. So that's Nick Marshall's situation. We leave it to Gus Malzahn, of course, to make his decision on an appropriate punishment. But I would guess 3 games for Nick Marshall. Bad news all around for the Auburn Tigers. Jonathan Mincy, defensive back, he had his own marijuana issue, which was a bit more severe. He was arrested a couple months ago. He had 14 passes defensed, 1 interception, and was 5th on the team with 56 tackles last season. So his punishment could be more severe. That has yet to be announced as well. Carl Lawson, who emerged as an impact player on this defensive line last season, along with D. Ford, who's moved on to the NFL. Carl Lawson of 4 sacks last season, 7.5 tackles for loss. Carl Lawson has been lost for the season. That was confirmed by Malzahn today as well. He's got an ACL tear. There was speculation that after he injured the ACL at the end of spring practice that he might be able to make it back for this season or a portion of the season. Malzahn did not rule out Carl Lawson somehow possibly making it back for some portion of the season, but he's going to be lost for the bulk of 2014, and this is a guy that was the gem of the recruiting class in Malzahn's first recruiting session with the Auburn Tigers. A key player to look out for is one that's just enrolled. He has not stepped on the field for Auburn, but he could be a starter and an impact player, and he's very much needed at this point with the news of Lawson's injury. And that's Devontae Lambert, who's a junior college player coming from Georgia. specifically Burke County, Georgia, number 1 rated defensive end by 24/7 Composite. They also rated him as the 6th best junior college prospect, again, out of Burke County, Georgia, at 6'3", 278 pounds, a guy that was headed to Tennessee, but he flipped in December of 2013 and decided to go to Auburn. And with the news of Carl Lawson's loss in 2014, Gus Malzahn and Ellis Johnson are very happy that Devontae Lambert made that decision. Auburn fans talked to us about Nick Marshall, about Lawson's injury, about Lambert possibly stepping in, and the need for him to step in and be an impact player, and Jonathan Mincy as well, a possible suspension for the Auburn defensive back, right here on Mark Rogers TV.